everybody and welcome to my channel. Today we are finally going to be starting our end of the year content. And yeah, I know it's the beginning of the next year, but I really hate starting end of the year content before I actually finish reading for the end of the year because I had a bunch of stuff that I ended up getting through at the end of the year. So I'm really glad I didn't do any of these videos because I actually do have a new favorite and new disappointments and new surprises. So I am glad I waited. It's annoying to wait. I've been dying to do these videos, but I did wait and we have been rewarded for it. So in this video, we are going to do the surprises and the disappointments. I was gonna do them separately, but I think it can just be one video. I just have to talk through it pretty fast, which we know how good I am at that, but this may be a pretty long video. And if you want to watch one specific thing or the other, I will have them marked down below. So if you do just want to watch one half of the video, we're going to be doing disappointments first, and then we're going to end on a positive note with the surprises, so you can skip around to whatever you feel like. So we're starting with the disappointments first, and we're going to jump right into it. I have 14 books in my disappointment list, and they actually are ranked. They are still generally all the same, but I actually did put like least disappointing to most disappointing on this list, and I was really proud of myself for actually ordering it that way. But yeah, let's get right into it. So number one on the most disappointing list is episode 13 by Craig DeLuey. This was supposed to be such a cool book. It's a ghost hunting story. It has multimedia kind of things going on, and it just didn't work. It didn't work. The reason it's the lowest on this list is because the audiobook was fantastic. It's one of those weird things where it's like the audiobook is so good, but the content is still not that great. But I still enjoyed my audiobook experience. And I did give this one like a 2.5, I think. So yeah, I generally just really didn't enjoy this. It was really, really weird. And the ending left a lot to be desired for this one. Next on the list is This Delicious Death by Kayla Cottingham. So sad about this one. This is the same author as My Darkest Dearest, and this was the new release. I was so excited because I love My Darkest Dearest, and this was supposed to be following basically zombies, but in a post-apocalyptic world where you can get synthetic organs. There's no reason for zombies to like bite people, and they've kind of figured out the whole thing. But then they go to this concert and people start disappearing, and there's some mysterious stuff happening, and the zombies start getting weird and out of control. So it sounds action-packed, sounds really, really cool, a great, neat idea, but it was executed so poorly. I think I gave this one a 3-star because I did start liking the ending. It started getting really creepy with certain things happening at the ending, but generally the first like 50% of this book was so boring and the dialogue was very forced. It felt like you were being told a lot of stuff instead of actually shown a lot of stuff in the book, and it just really didn't work for what I think it was trying to do, which is really, really sad. So I really hope Kayla Cottingham has a better next book because I really want something to live up to how good My Darkest Dearest was. That is really hard to say. So the next one is actually by an author where I didn't realize that this was the same author as these other books, or I probably wouldn't have been as hyped for this book. But this is You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Kaylin Bayron. And this is the same author as, oh shoot, Cinderella is Dead, and the other one. I never remember what the other one is called. But I didn't like either of those books, so that was my dog hacking something up in the background. In the morning, he's always really gross in the morning. So if I had known that this was the same author, I would not have been as hyped, but it's such a cool idea because it's a group of camp counselors who run a horror camp, and it's basically trying to scare the crap out of people who come to do this. And it definitely has some inspiration from that really creepy haunted house manor. I don't remember what the manor's called. It has some inspiration from that, but less extreme, and it just seemed really fun. And then the ending happened, and it was like, the twist, really. Not the end. I kind of like the end, but the twist was so bad. The twist was so bad. It was not good. It was not good. A lot of people kind of had the same reaction to the twist as I did. It was just so unnecessary. It was like overcomplicated. It was trying too hard to do something, and it really just needed to be a slasher. Like, it really just needed to be a simple slasher, and it would have been just really, really fun for the Halloween season. Next one is probably going to be on everyone's disappointed or even worse list, is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. After the final girl support group, which I know a lot of people didn't like, I gave like a 4.5, 5-star last year. I had my hopes so high for this next one because it sounds so good. Haunted house, creepy dolls in the haunted house, family stress, etc. And it just did not live up to that. It did not live up to that. The weird puppet thing was so stupid, and I'm even creeped out by puppets, and no, that didn't creep me out at all. And what really killed me though was the brother in the story. The brother was so unlikable that I almost DNF'd it like 3 or 4 times because I could not stand his character being on page in any circumstances. I hated the brother being just existing. It was so obnoxious. Next up, we have a pretty popular one. This was in one of my recent videos, might have been last month, of popular books that I didn't like, that I just don't get the hype of, and Check and Mate is definitely on this list. I had such high hopes for this because I like Ali Hazelwood books, and I was thinking, and a lot of times in romance books I don't like the smut, etc. in it, so I was like, okay, Ali Hazelwood's writing and characters in a young adult book, and I was like, that sounds like a match made in heaven for me. I'm gonna love it. It's just gonna be a cute romance. No. No. She skirted as close to adult romance as she possibly could. These are 2 characters who are both chess players. One is like a world elite champion chess player, and one quit chess because of family drama, and she's getting back into chess, and it's the romance between the 2 of them. The problem is our main character was insufferable. It is the same issue I've had with some of Ali Hazelwood's female characters. It's like she doesn't know how to write a likable female character. It's very strange. She's great at writing male characters and liking them. She has a great like female gaze kind of thing going on, but she's not good at making likable female characters. They're just so annoying and obnoxious, and I feel like she thinks it's them being strong and independent, but it's really not. They're just frustrating and constantly making stupid decisions, and it makes me very angry being a woman reading about these women. So basically, I ended up really not liking that because of the female lead and the female lead's sisters. Oh my gosh. It is like Ali Hazelwood didn't know how 18-year-olds act, because I want to say our main character is 18, because I think she was just out of high school, and it's like she didn't know how they acted, and it was so overly sexualized. I was not expecting that. I really thought she'd kind of respect the young adult tag. She did not. It was so sexualized. This is like the in-between young adult and adult, because it was not as sexual as romance is in adult books a lot of times, but it was way more than young adult, and the characters are like 18 and 21, so that is not young adult. Again, my dog just cannot help himself. He's just hacking stuff up. He licks his legs sometimes, so he gets some hairballs like a cat. So hopefully he'll stop doing that soon. He's always like this in the morning, and he's not happy about not being upstairs in bed right now. Anyway, yeah, Check and Mate 100% on this list. Next one is Deck of Omens by Christina Lynn Herman. This is the 2nd book in the Devouring Grey series. Devouring Grey I gave like 4.5 stars, and then Deck of Omens I gave like a 2. It is not good. It is not good. It really, like, I feel like she wrote the book and didn't know what to do with the 2nd book, which is how I felt with Christina Lynn Herman's other book series, I think All of Us Villains. Same thing. It's like she did not know what the heck to do with the characters in the 2nd book, because she rinsed and repeated a bunch of stuff from the 1st book, which was like, why? Like, what was even the purpose of this book? And then the ending was so anticlimactic. It just didn't work. I couldn't even tell you really what happened at this point. It's so not memorable about like what they did for the drama in the story, and they kind of changed like the basis of the story in the 1st book in the 2nd book. It was very strange. I don't understand like why what was done, and I can't even really talk about it because again, it's the 2nd in a book series, but the 1st book is about this little small town. It's got like Vampire Diaries vibes, like Mystic Falls vibes, and it's about a group of founders like Vampire Diaries, and they all have powers, and they use these powers to protect the town from like the gray mist or whatever. You're not supposed to go in it because you can go missing, because there's a monster that lives in it, and they're basically trying to solve what's going on, and especially because it's growing and the forest seems sick. So that's kind of what the story is about, and the drama and relationships between the founders, and really it's about the founders like kids. That's who's really like dealing with the drama. But yeah, hugely disappointing. I think I gave it like a 2-star. Another popular one, One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I just didn't like this. And the main reason I didn't like this, I chose the romance wrong, which is why I need to read the second book, because I heard people who didn't like the first book end up really liking the second book and vice versa. So I really wanted our main character to end up with the brother of who she ends up with. Or cousin? Is it cousin? I don't remember, but I really like the guy that she did not end up with, and that kind of ruined it for me. I thought it was very love at first sight, and we were following our main character who has like a nightmare living in her head, which I thought was a really cool idea, and she goes off and they have to figure out these card magic, and I'm not explaining this very well. And basically it's just a romance. It's a romance with this guy that she comes into contact with, and that's pretty much it. They're trying to figure out how to get rid of these magical cards. They're trying to like get them all together so they can get rid of them, and the curse that they've like put on people, something like that. It's something like that. I don't remember. I didn't pay attention a lot because I really didn't like it. Again, I think I gave this one up like a 2 stars. Other one, this one I gave a 3. This one I gave a 3. There are like higher rated books on this list. And like I said, the higher we get up on the list, the more disappointed I am. And I actually read this book twice to see if it would change my mind. Tress of the Emerald Sea, I gave a 3-star. I just expected so much more out of this book. I expected to like it so much more than I did, especially because I actually really loved A Frugal Wizard's Guide to Medieval England. My husband and I loved that book because we like funny sci-fi, because that is a sci-fi book. That is not a fantasy book. That is a sci-fi book, which is why I think a lot of people did not like it, because it went to a ton of hardcore fantasy readers, and this was for lighthearted sci-fi readers. So I love that one. So I was like, oh, we're going to Trust of the Emerald Sea. I'm gonna really like this because I really like the writing style. And it was just boring. That was my biggest problem with the Trust of the Emerald Sea, and I literally just finished rereading it. It was literally just so boring for the first 60% of the book. I actually liked the beginning. I liked the beginning of the book, the first like 10%, the first couple chapters. And then the time that she's beginning her journey on the sea to when she's picked up on the Crow's Song, I think that's the title of the boat. And even like the first part on the Crow's Song, I didn't like it. Like, I didn't like it at all. It took me forever the second time even to read through it, and I was just bored. I was so bored. And then I loved the ending. So that's why I ended up giving a 3-star, and that's why it's a disappointing read, because I feel like there was so much I liked about it, but generally it just kind of leaves a taste in my mouth, which is like not what you want after you read a book, which is really sad. Okay, yeah, we are getting up into like the really disappointing ones. The next one is The Stolen Heir. Again, I gave it a 3-star, but I was expecting so much more from this book. This is following Oak, and I can never remember the girl's name, even though I liked her better than I liked Oak. And it's basically Oak and this girl going on this journey together to this other kingdom, and that's pretty much all I remember about it. I'm gonna have to reread it before The Prisoner's Throne comes out, but it did end off on a really, really, really good cliffhanger. It ended up on a really good spot that I think could be really good. And I have very high hopes where the book is going. However, I did not feel a connection between the two main characters. I really didn't like Oak much at all, which was surprising. And I thought I would just feel more about the story as a continuation of the Cruel Prince series, but I just didn't care. Like, after I read it, and I love Holly Black. Holly Black is one of my favorite authors. So the fact that I read that and I was just like, this didn't have to exist, was like, oh my God. I never thought I would say that about a Holly Black book. Ooh, the next one. Still gave it a 3-star. Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I know. It's on everyone's favorites list this year. It's not on my worst list. It's just on my disappointments list because I don't care one way or another about it. I just didn't like it. I thought it was really boring. I was not interested whatsoever in it. Honestly, Legends and Lattes I was just bored. I like adventure stories and I like cozy everything. I read a lot of cozy books, especially cozy mysteries, and I loved Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. That's a cozy fantasy as well, just like Legends and Lattes, but I feel like in Legends and Lattes, literally nothing happened. Literally nothing happened. And I need something. Even though I loved the characters, I also felt nothing about the romance, which was really upsetting. I loved the friendship, but I feel like the romance was just kind of like shoved down your throat, like, hey, they have to be in a romance. And it's like, this would have worked better as a friendship. Like, if you really wanted to do that, you really needed to talk about the romance a little earlier in the book, because they were just really, really good friends for a really long time. And then it seemed to just suddenly be like, oh yeah, hey, romance. And it just didn't work for me. It didn't work for me. I needed it to be introduced much earlier in the book, and that is a possibility. So I just didn't really feel the romance, which I think definitely hurt it a lot, because if I had felt the romance the whole book, I probably would have ended up loving it. But because I did not feel that romance, I was just bored. Ooh, okay, we're getting into books that I'm disappointed by. Well, okay, the next two I'm disappointed and I didn't like. I didn't like Dark Corners by Megan Golden. This was one of my most anticipated books of the year. It is the second book after The Night Swim, and this is following our same character, Rachel Kroll, who's the podcaster from the first book. And she has a different case to solve, and she has to go to like an influencer thing, and there's just a lot going on. There's a lot going on, possible serial killer, stuff like that, and a missing influencer, and it sounds so good, and it was so bad. It was so bad. This one's actually going to be on my worst books of the year list. I did give it a 1 star. I hated it. My husband read it. We both were like, what is this? After The Night Swim, which is one of my favorite mystery thrillers of all time, this was so bad. It was so bad. And I think my high expectations definitely made it even worse, but I hated it. It felt more like a drama between her and the police officer that they were kind of like doing a thing with. And then having from the perspective of the killer, I absolutely loathed. I hated. I thought it was a waste of time. It was stupid. And then there was like random stuff thrown in there as red herrings that was stupid and just confusing, and it didn't work with the plot. And it was just bad. It was just a very bad book. And there's a reason that this one, which should have been a top contender for the Goodreads Choice Awards, was not even mentioned. That's how bad it was. Next one is The Atlas 6 by Livy Blake. I'm starting to think Alone with You in the Ether was the fluke, because now I'm 2 books in, or I'm 3. I've read 3 books by Livy Blake, The Atlas 6, One for My Enemy, and Alone with You in the Ether, and it's getting worse. Alone with You in the Ether is going to be on my best books list. It's 5 stars. One for My Enemy, I gave a 3.75, and the more I think about it, the lower it gets. It's probably more of a 3. It's just okay. And then The Atlas 6 was like a 1 to 2. It was so It was so bad. I like unlikable characters, and this was not it. This was not it at all. If you like The Secret History, which I did not, it's my least favorite book I've ever read. Last year I did have a book that I hated more than that one, but if you like The Secret History, you might like this. The characters are very similar. They are very similar and very unlikable, but it's not a fun unlikable. They just all suck. They're all terrible people, and not in a fun, like, mischievous way. It's you legitimately are horrible people, and I hope you all die in an explosion. That's how bad they are, and that's just not fun to read for me. I want a like one villain to root for, and I didn't like any of them. And even the ones that aren't evil, they're just annoying. They're like little kids running around. Like, I just don't like it. It didn't work. I didn't like them, and the story was stupid. Sorry. I know a lot of people actually do like this book, but man, this is a divisive book, I feel like, because a lot of people really hate it and a lot of people really like it. So I feel like it's hard to fall in between for this book. And I was definitely in the camp of, wow, I didn't like this, and I really thought I would, and I hated it. Okay, the next 4 books that I just, again, feel meh about, but they are my most disappointing of the year. So, coming up in second place for most disappointing is Divine Rivals. You guys knew that was coming in here. Yeah, Rebecca Ross, I love her books normally. I really like Rebecca Ross's writing, and this did not work whatsoever for me. I don't know what about it I didn't like. It felt very insta-love. It felt very confusing. It felt like she didn't know what she wanted to do with the plot. I enjoyed the beginning of it. I really thought this book was going to be more about being a reporter, but instead it became more about being in the middle of this village and avoiding attacks, which again, I thought was just kind of really boring, and it definitely focused and harped on more of the romance than the actual plot, which is not my jam. I want more plot. I do want romance in there, don't get me wrong. I have to have a good romance in there, but I want a really good plot, and I don't think I could tell you the plot of the story other than that there's 2 gods at war and all the humans are stuck in the middle of it for some reason, And that's it. Like, there's no big rhyme or reason. There's no big purpose to it. It's just everyone's kind of stuck. And it wasn't fun to read. I had not an inch of fun to read, and it was so obvious what was going to happen at the end. Like, a little bit of it was surprising, but it was very obvious what was going to happen at the end, and I hated the ending. I hated what happened at the ending, and it just don't like it. So bad. I did buy the second book. I bought a generic Barnes & Noble copy of the second book so that I can read it before, if I decide I'm gonna like buy the Fairy Loot edition, because I did get rid of my Alcred edition. I didn't love that edition, so I got rid of it. But I did keep my Fairy Loot edition because I do think it's really pretty. But if I don't like the second book, I will be getting rid of it. So we're gonna see. I'm gonna read Ruthless Vows pretty early on because I think the pre-order for the Fairy Loot book is this month sometime. So I will be reading Ruthless Vows. You should see that in a recap. I'm tempted to do a reading vlog for it, but there's a high likelihood of a DNF, so I don't know. I might try it. If I DNF it, I'll just scrap it. Then our number one, which is funny because it releases this month, and I'm still gonna buy the Fairy Loot copy. I'm still gonna buy the Fairy Loot copy because I generally still loved being in this world, but this book had so many problems. It had so many problems. It felt rushed. It felt like the author didn't know what to do with this book, and I was so disappointed. It is Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands. I got a very, very early arc of this. I give it a 3-star, but it didn't make any sense. It rinsed and repeated a lot of the storyline from the first book. It also regressed Emily Wilde's character for some, like, she learned so much in the first book, and it was like all of that went out of her head. She just became the same person she was at the beginning of the first book, and listening to her fight with herself was so frustrating, and it also backtracked the romance. Like, we made so much progress in the romance in the first book, and then it's like it all went away, except on Wendell's side. On Wendell's side, it was good. We were all happy. We were doing great things. But on her side, it was like it didn't happen. It was so weird. So then when the romance actually like happens, it's like it feels very random. It feels like she doesn't even really want it. And that did not feel like the first book. So I was very disappointed in this book. I still enjoyed some of the aspects of it. Some of it was still really, really cool. Some of the banter was really good. But overall, the storyline and the romance took a nosedive in this book compared to the first one. So those are all my most disappointing books of 2023. We are moving right on to the surprises for some positives because that was a lot of negative. We are going on to the positives. So first up, we're going to talk about a book that I literally just read, and that is Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. You guys, if you've seen it by now, that was our book club pick in December. I did give it a 4-star. I actually really liked it. And the reason it's the lowest on the list is because I had really high expectations at first, and the more I saw people read it and not liking it, my expectations went down. So I felt very middle of the road about this. So the fact that I gave it a 4 is what I originally thought I was gonna rate it, but not what I currently thought I was gonna rate it. So it's like it's surprising now, but not before. So if I read this back in like October, I would have been like, yeah, that's on par for what I thought it would get. But yeah, this one it's a weird one. I 100% understand why people don't like this one. This was definitely I am on my own on this one, that I like this for some reason. I probably couldn't even pinpoint exactly why I like this, but I ended up liking the characters. This is following our main character, Calla, and a couple of our other main characters. There's too many main characters. And they're living in this almost sci-fi dystopian world. This is more sci-fi than fantasy to me. And there's like this Hunger Games-esque game going on where the winner gets a ton of money, which is really important because this is one of those places that the poor are incredibly poor and the rich are the elite of the elite. So getting this type of money is amazing. They can leave this awful town or this awful city, and that's kind of the purpose of this whole thing. But there's also things going on in the background with political intrigue and how corrupt the government is or the monarchy. And so our main character, she just really wants to figure some stuff out. So that's all I gotta say, because I don't know what was on the dust jacket, so I don't want to ruin anything, and I literally just read it, so I would totally ruin this book. But I gave it a 4-star. I actually really ended up enjoying it. The first half is not very good, but I really loved the back half, and I loved the twist at the end. Next is All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. This is again one that I read relatively recently, and I originally read it for the mystery thriller Goodreads video I was doing, but I ended up scrapping because I just didn't have that much to say about the category as a whole, and I talked about it enough in my Goodreads videos. But I ended up really liking this one. I give this one a 4-star. This is a surprise because I didn't know anything about this book. I hadn't heard about this book. It's a gritty novel. It's a gritty thriller, and I don't tend to like those very much. But the way that this book was written and the way that it was done, I ended up really loving this book. And I didn't love the ending, but I loved the middle and the family drama and the dynamics. That's actually what ended up really making me like it, was less the crime stuff and more of the family stuff, which is, again, not something I normally like. I'm definitely the person who wants the mystery stuff, but the everything on the side was so good that I ended up just really liking it. Monsters Born and Made by Tanvi Barua. This was so good. This had such a low rating on Goodreads, but I ignored them for once and I was like, I want to read it. I want to read it and I think I'm going to like it. And I ended up giving it a 4.5. And I gave it a 4.5 because it does kind of leave off on a cliffhanger. And there's no news right now as to when a second book is going to come out. The author has said she's interested in continuing the series, but she is contracted, or they are contracted to other books first. So they do think they're going to come back to the series. It just may be on different islands in this world, but it will connect. And I'm just like, so I loved it. I loved it. We're following, I read this a really long time ago. We're following our main character who lives in the outskirts of the city. If you live in the city, you're doing well, but if you live on the outskirts, you can be attacked by monsters from the sea, and there's like sirens that'll go off when this happens, and it's crazy. It's crazy. And in the middle of all this, there is a race, and you use like, I don't remember, they're like monster things, and they're very aggressive and violent, and you use them, and it's like these death races, and it's so good. It is so good. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic, and I had such a good time reading that one. I was surprised that more people didn't like it, but I can see why people didn't like it because of the ending. The ending definitely does not give you a lot to work with, although I kind of loved it. I kind of loved how it ended, but if you're a romance fan, you might not like how it ends. Another one that was kind of a big surprise because I didn't go into it thinking much, but I probably should have because I've loved Ashley Poston's books before, but I finally read Heart of Iron, which she wrote quite a while ago, and it ended up being fantastic. I really liked it. It was just a fun sci-fi book. It's been a really long time since I read it, and I still haven't read the sequel, which I do own. All I remember is I really, really enjoyed it, and I can't really tell you any more about it because I literally don't remember what it's about. The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. I loved this. I am starting to realize I like lyrical writing because, again, Alone with You in the Ether, I absolutely loved, and it had that lyrical, pretty writing, but not too much. It's like simple lyrical writing. If it gets too like purple prosy, then I don't like it. But if it's simple and beautiful, then I really like it. But if it gets too much, then my brain it like short circuits. Because like that's what happened with Skin of the Sea. It was so over the top and too descriptive that my brain short-circuited, and I had to read like the same page like 17 times because I didn't know what was happening. But these are more like ethereal. It's more ethereal writing where it's almost like you're in a cloud, and that's what The Last Tale of the Flower Bride felt like. It felt like you were in a dream the entire book, like sometimes a nightmare. But and the ending was pretty obvious what was going to happen, but I didn't care. I loved it so much, and it's following. Is it following two characters? I know it's following at least one. I don't remember if there's two perspectives or if it was two timelines. But we're following characters who think there's like a secret garden or secret like fairy world in the back of the house, and they grow up and just there's drama that happens. So much drama, so much drama. And it's heartbreaking and beautiful and just, it's a lot. It's a lot, and I loved it. And I think I gave it a 4.25, I think. Probably one of the biggest surprises was Pure Nessie by Susanna Clark. Give it a 4-star. One of the weirdest books I've ever read, but once you get to the end, it like makes total sense, and it's like, yikes. It's a yikes moment, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I read it so quickly, and it just like blew my mind. It was so good. And heartbreaking, and just it was kind of stressful too, but I really, really liked that one. And I could not explain it to you because I don't think you should go into this book with any type of explanation. You should just pick it up knowing it's going to be a strange book and you're going to be confused for some of it, but it's worth it. Okay, this one is also going to be on my favorite books of the year list, and it was definitely a huge surprise, and it is The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Khaw. I loved this book. This is again another example of like pretty lyrical writing that I ended up really loving and other people really don't like, because this didn't do very well. Neither did Nothing But Black and Teeth, which I should have put on here. It is also one of my biggest surprises of the year because I gave it a 3 point, I think I gave it a 3.5. And everyone else hated it. And I was like, I don't really understand the big hate for it. It's got like a 2-something on Goodreads. But I really like that one because it was just kind of a fun little horror book. Salt Grows Heavy literally made me sob. It made me sob at the end for sadness and happiness and the story and the characters. I could not tell you the emotional damage and the emotional journey that I went on in this book, because it definitely took me a little bit to get into this book, or novella technically, but I ended up loving it. And again, it's another one that I can't explain the storyline because it's so weird, but we're following a mermaid who kind of just destroyed her kingdom, and we have a non-binary plague doctor who comes with her, and they basically get sucked into like evil fairy tales, and like accidentally, as they're trying to find a new place to live. It's weird, it's fun, it's beautiful, and I loved it. The next one was a huge surprise because I had never heard of this author before, and now I'm really excited to read one of their other books. I'm Not Supposed to Be in the Dark by, I think it's Rhys, I don't know if it's Rhys or Rhys M. Nielsen. I loved this. This was one of my favorite young adult horrors of the year, and I had no expectations for it. It just came in a Fox and Wit box, and I just thought the cover was really pretty. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful book. I loved it. Again, very pretty writing, ethereal writing. And we're following our main character whose best friend had basically told her to go away and has been acting very, very strangely, and starts kind of coming back into her life, but he's acting like something's wrong with him. And she becomes pretty convinced that he's possessed by something. And it's just, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's really good. I really liked the romance. It was cute. And there's just a lot going on, and I really, really liked it. Another one that I'm really glad I ignored ratings, because this is kind of what kicked off my love of sci-fi this year, and I'm actually going into 2024 thinking that 2024 is going to be the year of sci-fi, okay? That's what I'm thinking. I'm gonna read a ton of sci-fi this year, and I read The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey, which has not good ratings, but I loved it. I thought it was so good. It's like more intense, scary Stepford Wives. Stepford Wives is one of my favorite movies. I absolutely love that movie with Nicole Kidman, the one with Nicole Kidman, because I know there's another one. But oh my gosh, I loved The Echo Wife. It's so good. It's so creepy, but it's following our main character who is I think she's like a geneticist, but she works on cloning. She's a cloning person, and she figured out cloning, and she can clone people, and there's a bunch of laws about if clones are real humans and their rights, etc., and they're not allowed to be pregnant, they're not allowed to do this. They're basically just for like menial tasks and stuff like that, but obviously that has a lot of issues in it. This tackled a lot of like probably current stuff coming up that's gonna be a problem. And basically it's called The Echo Wife because basically one of her things went rogue, and this woman has been created for purposes that could ruin her reputation. And that's all I'm gonna say, because there's a lot of stuff that goes in this book. There's a lot of drama, there's a lot of surprises, and I'm obsessed with it. If you read Comfort Me with Apples and liked Comfort Me with Apples, you would like The Echo Wife. If you liked The Echo Wife, you would like Comfort Me with Apples, because Comfort Me with Apples is also on this list. I read this at the end of the year, didn't expect much of it, loved it. Gave it a 4-star, I think. I absolutely loved it, and it definitely reminds me of Stepford Wives and Echo Wife, like a definite combination of that. But I love the twist at the end of that one. I was not expecting that. I should have seen it coming. But I did not. And the last one on our biggest surprises list is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I so many feelings about this book. I don't know what I expected going into this. I thought this was going to be I love reality TV. I thought this was going to be like stupid Jersey Shore, Vanderpump Rules kind of thing going on. And there definitely was an aspect of that. But honestly, I was just so emotional while reading this book. And I feel like people are going to make fun of me for this. I did not read this in a drama sort of way. I read this in the sort of way that I was like heartbroken for Magnolia and BJ. It hurt. it hurt, and I was heartbroken for Christian, and I was heartbroken for the dude that she's with for a lot of this book that I literally can't even remember his name. It felt so, like, take out the stupid stuff. Take out, this is why I didn't get a 5-star. It's like a 4.5 to 4.75, but I could not give it a 5-star because of the stupid clothing stuff. That drove me nuts. Ignore the clothing. This book is following our main character, Magnolia, and she has her soulmate, BJ, but they cannot be together because of reasons. And it's devastating. It's basically, to me, a really good version of the After series. If you've read the first book of the After series, it's kind of what it feels like, but I hated the After series because it was just bad writing. To me, this was really, really good, minus, again, they talk about, like, clothing brands. Like, anytime someone is on screen, they talk about what they're wearing. It drives me nuts. But for me, it felt like such a human book. You saw the flaws of these people, like, up close and personal. You saw, like, I feel like real human reactions to a situation like this happening, because I feel like in books, it's like, oh, we broke up because of this situation and we're fine now. And it's like, that is not how a lot of people deal with breakups. Like, some people are really good about cutting people off, but if you've been together with someone for like 10 something years, there's going to be drama, there's going to be heartbreak, there's going to be slip-ups, there's going to be backtracking, there's going to be you possibly coming up with any excuse to get back with this person. And I felt it. I felt this book wholeheartedly, and I thought it was absolutely beautiful and heartbreaking. And I feel like a lot of people did not get that out of this book. They just had a fun time with it. I got something like way deeper from this book that I probably shouldn't have, but I was reading it like absolutely heartbreaking, because I don't like any of them, but I also want them together, but I also don't want them together. That's that's why I liked it so much. It felt so humanly complicated. It wasn't black and white. Everything was gray in this story, that I just absolutely loved it. I loved it so much, and I cannot wait. I'm actually waiting for my copy of the second book, Daisy Hates, to actually come in the mail. I'm so excited about it. I'm so excited about it. So yeah, that honestly was the biggest surprise this year, and I read that like the last week of December. So there's that. Yeah, biggest surprise that I had this year. And I am so happy that I ended up reading it just on a whim. Like, it was $1.99 in Kindle. Like, Kindle was having a deal for it. So I was like, oh, okay, people have been reading it. It's been getting mixed reviews. I picked it up and I'm just like, yeah, so loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I cannot read Daisy Hates, because then after Daisy Hates, I get to read the second Magnolia Parks book. And I'm just like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. But anyway, those are my two lists for most disappointing and most surprising of 2023. This is how we're gonna start the end of the year content off, because I feel like it's a good way to ease into then doing the worst books of the year and my best books of the year. I'm so excited. I'm filming all of it today, so I'm gonna look really familiar. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely make sure to let me know down in the comments below which you had on your list of most disappointing and most surprising, and definitely let me know what kind of you're excited to get to in 2024, because we are in 2024. It's very exciting. I was writing 2023 at work all day yesterday. It was not going well. But anyway, like I said, make sure to comment down below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of this end of year content and new 2024 stuff. I got a lot of stuff going on. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next one.